We got two pieces of software here. The hairless MIDI serial bridge, which is essentially a intertwined, what would be, if it wasn't a software, it would be in fact the MIDI chord going into the keyboard. But because we don't actually have those physical objects, we have a software version of it. The hairless MIDI is essentially the data chords within the computer connecting to different softwares. So the hairless MIDI has a serial port, which is the Arduino Uno, sending into a MIDI out. That MIDI out is sent into a box, a serial box, which is the loop MIDI, which creates the channel name. So essentially, if the MIDI were to hook up to a radio and then send that information data wirelessly into the synthesizer, it would be this. It would be a loop MIDI, which is simply choosing the port radio station to send that data to. So we've got the loop MIDI port 1. So what's happening is the Arduino is sending data into here to loop MIDI port 1, and then through here, the loop MIDI, and then into whatever device software you choose. Essentially what you're doing is you're disguising the Arduino as a MIDI controller. So we have a MIDI read software, which is this guy. So we're going to open up a synth here, which will eventually be analog, but we don't need it right now. And what's going to happen is when I'll go deeper into it. We're going to want to go to options, we're going to go to MIDI settings, and now this is our MIDI settings page. We have all the ports that are open. We have it disguised as the loop MIDI port 1. So you click on loop MIDI port 1, click on it down here, it's enabled, obviously, and it's listed as a generic controller. So now the Arduino is essentially a keyboard. And what will happen is if you watch up here, you can see the data that's being sent as I flick this here. We've had a few technical problems getting it to activate, but it should work. See that? Can you zoom into that real quick? Zoom into this box right here.
There you go.
So as you flick it, you'll see it activate. See? The threshold's pretty high right now, so I've got to hit it pretty hard to make it go. And it's activating on here as I flick it. So what'll happen is I don't have any of the sound on completely right now, but when I get everything put together and I get the code right, it'll be sending this data into this keyboard into my choice of an electronic or analog keyboard, which I'll make analog because I'm kind of a purist that way. And it'll send data out of my computer into a real synthesizer and into a speaker. From my previous demo of this project, I used the Makey, which is a formatted Arduino, specifically to activate keyboard functions on a computer. The reason the Arduino is better than simply a Makey is because the Arduino is now actually a MIDI controller, and it allows me to use things like a piezo sensor and certain add-ons that give me a wider range of functions, especially when dealing with instruments. Because when you're dealing with instruments, the more reactive and the more intuitive the instrument is, the better music you're going to get out of it and such, and the more wider range of opportunities you have. So that's the whole project. That's what I have so far, and you can read in a little bit more to how this works in the paper I wrote and the problems that occurred and the reason this isn't quite as good as it was with my previous demos. All right, and that's it.